light 'em up, 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 light 'em up, 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 light 'em up, up. I'm on fire.
Hey everybody, episode 6 of Teen Wolf season 3 aired tonight, and guess what is back? Or who, I shall say. The Duroc. Yes, we knew it was going to happen. We knew that whatever that thing is, it was coming back, because it wasn't in the last episode. We start off the episode, some man drives up to a motel, and we see him in the bathroom, and he's looking at a bite. And we all know it's a werewolf bite because it's a werewolf show. So he goes and we see him kill himself. His eyes turn gold and he kills himself on a full moon. And we look down at his license after he dies and his name is Alexander Argent. I find that quite interesting. Now we stopped the last episode where all of our, well, y'all know, if y'all watched my last recap and review, you know what happened in the last episode. We all thought Derek was dead and all this stuff, and Scott wasn't healing, and they finally got him all fixed up. They were on the way, like, basically the whole episode was spent on a bus with a lot of going back into the past, but they were on their way to a cross-country meet. So, we've got Isaac, Lydia, Styles, Allison, Scott, Ethan, Danny, Coach, the whole team, the cross-country people, they go and stop at a motel because the meet has been postponed until the next day. They pull up to the Glen Capri Hotel, and yes, it is the same motel. Did I say hotel before? Excuse that. Motel. Because, yeah, it's not going to be a hotel. They're going to pull up at it in the middle of nowhere. It's just not. Anyways, they pull up there, and it is the same motel where we saw that guy kill himself, Alexander Argent. Upon arriving, Lydia is pretty freaked out, and she's like, I don't like this place, in a very ominous voice, and Allison's just like, it's one night, and Lydia's like, a lot can happen in one night. Basically, the whole episode, our werewolves are going insane and seeing things and hearing things that aren't there and just being really creepy. One really cute thing though that happened before they started acting all wonky. Styles and Scott are in their room and they are talking about who the Duroc might be, and one of the suspects Styles comes up with, of course he says it last, is Lydia, because she was unconsciously being, like, controlled by Peter last season. But that was just one little thing. And then we saw Scott in the bathroom, and he's looking really close, and they do a close-up of his eye, and then all of a sudden he sees it flash red like an alpha, and needless to say, that really freaked him out. So I'm just going to tell y'all quickly what happens with each of the werewolves. Try to sum it up without going back and forth. Boyd, he starts hearing voices like on the radio, and I think it's from when he's younger. Some girl named Alicia at the ice skating rink goes missing, and he starts freaking out about it. He goes and gets the safe out of the office. Oh, and by the way, this motel, it is famous for its suicides. At the beginning of the episode, it said 198, and then it said 201, which really freaked out Lydia, because she was like, so there's 3 more that are supposed to die, and they start to come up with thinking that the Duroc wants to kill 3 werewolves, because things are affecting the werewolves only. But anyways, Boyd takes the safe in the office, and he brings it into his room, and he basically drowns himself. So that's that part. Then we see Styles and Lydia go in, and they go, and Lydia the whole episode, she's hearing all these voices, and she's like figuring out what's gonna happen to different people. It's really freaky, and I'm like, it's pretty cool. It's like, I think she's psychic. That's just all. That's the best explanation I can come up with for her. But basically, they are able to save Boyd because they figure out before that, with Ethan, because he's like about to have sex with Danny, and then he starts like, his back starts doing this rippling thing. Ethan's one of the alpha twins, if you remember. And while this is happening, we're all freaking out. I know I was like, that is gross. So he freaks out and goes in the bathroom, and he like sees like a face, it looks like, coming out of his, in a hand, like trying to get out of his stomach. And I'm like, oh, that's so gross. And so he basically, I don't know, it somehow pushes him over the edge, and he goes and gets like a handsaw, and he's like about to like, I think he's about to saw himself in half, it looks like. Stiles and Lydia stop him. They like push him, and then he goes and he tries to rip himself open with his claws, and then they like push him into a heater, and the heat somehow snaps him out of it. And that is how they helped Boyd. They go and get a flare out of the bus, and they put it in the water, and kind of just like, it kind of like shocked him back to life, or just brought out his werewolf, which saved him. And Lydia found Isaac. Poor Isaac. He wasn't trying to kill himself, but it was like, it was so sad. I love Isaac. His thing that was going on with him in the episode, he starts hearing his dad, and he imagines himself actually getting locked in a freezer again. Poor thing. He just can't catch a break. We find him hiding under the bed. And Stiles is like, Isaac, here you go. And he brings the flare into his face, and he snaps out of it. During the whole episode, we see Derek, and he is basically, he's healing slowly. Not really. But Miss Blake, I can't remember if her name is Jennifer or Jessica, but I just assume call her Miss Blake, because that's what the easiest thing for me to call her. They basically have sex, and while they're like getting there together and stuff, he actually starts healing. Now on to what goes on with Scott in the episode. It's poor Scott. He imagines that Deucalion calls him. Well, his mother calls him, and he sees his mother outside. And this is something we had seen in the trailers, and we were like, is his mom gonna die? Because I like his mom. I don't want her to die. She does not die. Spoiler! Of course, you know there's gonna be spoilers, because this is a recap and review. But Deucalion, in his, like, what Scott thinks is happening is Deucalion has his mother, and he's like, you're an alpha now. Derek's dead. Now I'm coming after you and everyone you love. And then they show him ripping Scott's mom's throat out. And just Scott is just devastated. And then Stiles calls his name, and he turns around and sees Stiles, and then he like looks back and stuff, and I don't know if he actually realizes it's all in his head, or I think he does, but he's still really messed up, because when Scott's thing was so just heartbreaking, because I had tears watching it. They were all trying to go find another flare, because they didn't know how they needed to get Scott snapped out of what was going on, because they figured out somehow they were drugged or something, like when the werewolves were drugged, and everybody was drugged at Lydia's birthday party. So, but they find Scott outside the bus with the flare, and there's like a emptied bottle of gasoline on the ground, and he's just standing there in like the rain, and he's like, it's just this whole depressed speech, and it's heartbreaking and so truthful in many ways, but it's just like, Scott, everybody needs you. You were like, you're everything on this show. You are the heart of this show. I mean, a lot of other people are too, but you're just the most moral, greatest, just amazing guy. And basically Styles and even Allison, everybody, they try to talk him out of it. Styles doesn't exactly talk him out of it, of killing himself. Styles basically goes and he's like, we're best friends. We are brothers. And that right there was just the most amazing thing. That was the most touching moment of this show, because I really do see them like brothers. They just have that relationship, and it's great. He goes and like puts his hand on Scott's and grabs the flare, and basically Scott's just like freaking out because he's like, if you're gonna do this, we're gonna do it together. And Scott pretty much like relinquishes his hold, and Styles throws the flare away. When the flare lands, we think, oh, okay, it's okay. But I'm like, no, it's right by a puddle of gasoline. So it rolls and catches fire. Lydia freaks out and starts to push everybody out of the way, and everybody is turned around, and of course it's going to be Lydia that sees it. So in the flames, in the little explosion that happens, not little, but in the explosion, we see this like, I'm trying to decide how to explain what it looked like. It looked like a weird witch thing, just like a really deformed, like a stereotypical, but out of your like horror nightmares witch. Not the it's not Sabrina the Teenage Witch or anything like that. It's the Duroc, and it is scary, and yes, it's scary. So when they get back onto the bus, they realize that they have all been drugged with wolfsbane, because Lydia looks at the coach's whistle and sees something on it, grabs it, and she like blows, and wolfsbane comes out. So they realize every time the coaches had been blowing the whistle, they had been being poisoned by the wolfsbane. And another thing that happens is Ethan goes up to Scott, and he's basically telling him, he's like, you saved me, basically, and Styles is like, actually it was me, but I don't know. Anyways, well, we know Styles did. I mean, Scott wasn't even there, but I guess Ethan just doesn't want to talk to the human. Poor Styles, but you don't want his attention on you anyway, because he's bad news. But he basically says he's gonna give him a warning about what's gonna happen because of his life being saved or whatever. And he says they have a pretty good feeling that Derek is alive, and if he is, he's either going to have to, because he killed Ennis. Well, he didn't really kill Ennis. They think he did, but we all know that Deucalion did. But he's going to have to take his place in the Alpha Pack, or kill his own pack, or Kali and the rest of the Alphas are going to go after him and kill him. So yeah. Now, I saved this for last because I just thought it was so interesting, because it was just something out of the box in the episode that I really liked, because I think Mr. Argent is really cool. So the whole episode, we get little flashes of him. He's back at where the whole big fight went down, and you see him kind of like just in his, like, he's like looking at all the evidence of the fight, and he's putting together everything that happened in the fight, and it's really neat. After all that goes down, and he tries to talk Allison into letting him come pick them up and all this stuff, at the very end of the episode, WTF, but we were wondering, you were wondering too, what happened to Gerard? Well, we see. He's in a wheelchair somewhere, and he's still bleeding that black blood. Yay, Scott, for being awesome and tricking him, because you're awesome. And he's like, he says to Mr. Argent, like, he's like, you coming to see me again twice in 1 week? I feel special or something. And he basically asks Gerard who bit Alexander Argent. And I want to say was it? I think it was his uncle, Mr. Argent's uncle or something. I can't remember. I was trying to put that together, but you could tell me in the comments. But I was like, oh, I know, it's just gonna be obvious who they're gonna say bit him. It was Deucalion. So we know that, with that being said, Mr. Argent is probably gonna help Scott and them out again. Pack Street Boys, sorry, I love that. I love that whole thing going on. But anyways, this episode was really great, and I will be vlogging from a different location as I'll be on vacation next week, but I will vlog. I will not leave y'all hanging. I hope y'all enjoyed this video and continue to watch and subscribe. Have a great night. Bye.